All right, so Old Baldy, built in 1817, and it definitely shows its age. So I guess there's no time like the present. Let's go ahead and taxi and take off. I'm going to make my way out onto the active here. Hope everybody enjoys the flight. Thanks again for being patient with the technology issues, and we will endeavor to get going. All right, I'm rolling. I'm flying a Cessna 182T here. And up we go. All right, Oak Island also has an interesting history. This particular beach, formerly known as Caswell Beach, was actually wiped out in 1958 during Hurricane Hazel. So it literally laid waste to everything here. There were quite a few residents that were killed during that storm. Bad stuff. Last week we had tropical storm move through this area of North Carolina and had some flooding. The Cape Fear River is actually to our left, and Carolina Beach and Wilmington, and there were some issues there. At any rate, this is a beautiful place on the East Coast in North Carolina to have a vacation, and we're going over the Oak Island Golf Course. Quite lovely. And Brian, if you're still on, would you be monitoring the chat for me, please?
Yep, I am.
Okay, so I'm coming over the Oak Island Lighthouse right now, so you can see it's gray, white, and black, and it actually has LEDs for its display. This is not using a Fresnel lens. So the other lighthouses scattered out and about in North Carolina do have still have some Fresnel lenses in use, and they're very bright. They will go all the way out to like 20 nautical miles out to sea. So that's the Oak Island light. 16 LEDs. Maximum luminous range on the lenses is 20.5 nautical miles. That particular facility was being operated by the United States Coast Guard, and the lighthouse has actually been, the ownership of it has actually been transferred to the town of Caswell Beach. So we're coming up now on Old Baldy. And it was built in 1817. It's the oldest standing lighthouse in the state of North Carolina. I believe the lighthouse in St. Augustine, Florida is older. But this is Old Baldy. This is a resort that is only accessible by ferry, and there are no automobiles allowed on the island. A great place to go and relax and do absolutely nothing. And I do apologize to everybody for the late start here. We will make our way up the coastline here. So we have the Atlantic to our right and then the Cape Fear River to our left. And there's a ferry that runs from a little town called Southport in North Carolina over to give our tourist folks access to Carolina Beach and also to the North Carolina Aquarium. So this part of the North Carolina coast actually is very rich in terms of its wildlife, both land lubbing and sea faring. But there are quite a few loggerhead turtle nests along the coast. They are protected. There's actually a group of volunteers that live in Oak Island that actually go out and tag and mark the nests as the turtles come in to lay their eggs. And then during the late summer, early fall, then you might have the chance, if you vacation here, to see what is referred to as a boil. And that is actually the hatching process for the turtles. And the sand does look like it's bubbling, like boiling water in a pot. It's quite interesting. So there are usually turtle nests near the condo that the wife and I visit when we go on vacation to the coast. And the North Carolina Aquarium being here, they do sea turtle rehabilitation and rescue as they need to. It's just a fun place to go. I see someone is in the chat saying, sorry I missed this one, long day at work. Well, we actually got a late start. We had some problems with audio doubling up, which really seemed not to be a problem because I restarted the stream and we're good to go. So if you're still on, glad to have you along. Well, there's a lot of stuff going on the North Carolina coast. And I think I mentioned this in the group stream, the live stream that we did over the weekend, particularly with Carolina Beach. There is an awesome and legendary place in Carolina Beach to get donuts. It's called Brett's Donuts. And they make donuts during the tourist season here at Carolina Beach. And they close when they run out. But they are quite delicious. Definitely worth the trip. Okay, we're just going to make our way up the coastline here, and our next lighthouse destination is going to be the Cape Lookout Lighthouse. If I missed anything about Old Baldy. I think I did mention that it was built in 1817. That particular lighthouse was deactivated in 1935, along with the lion's share of lighthouses located on the eastern seaboard. I believe that's about the same time period that the Ocracoke Lighthouse, which we will get to later in the flight, was also decommissioned. There is a preservation society that is working to preserve Old Baldy. But it is a national landmark, and it's very, very cool. and I believe it is 75 feet tall. The lighthouse at Oak Island is still considered to be active and participating in official navigation, but the old lighthouse at Old Baldy is not. It is no longer an official navigational aid. And interestingly enough, I believe that Old Baldy, if I'm remembering correctly, was also used as a radio beacon during World War II. We don't think about a lot of military activity taking place on the eastern seaboard in North Carolina, but this was quite a military-rich environment, along with anti-submarine activities that were taking place here. There were dive bomber squadrons that were located along the coast, and I'll try to remember to point one of them out as we make our way up the coast. And I did mention this on the live stream on Saturday. Now, I am a North Carolina native, so I do have some local knowledge and also some connection to this area. My grandmother, who was in the Women's Auxiliary Army Corps during World War II, actually lived here in Wilmington during the war, as my grandfather was a steam fitter and worked in the naval yard here in Wilmington. But I do remember my grandmother telling the story of seeing a torpedoed ship burning off of the coast of Wilmington, which would have been it was quite disconcerting. And as we move our way up the Outer Banks, the currents and the shoals, all located off of the Barrier Island coast, had a tendency to gobble up ships. One of the nicknames of this region is the Graveyard of the Atlantic. And I do remember as a small boy being out on the Outer Banks, and I'll try to point some of these places out as we get there, where you could still see ship remnants on the beach or in the tidal pool close to the shoreline. Pretty amazing. But you had to be quite careful walking around on the beach in the Outer Banks. You could step on something rusty, so the tetanus shot might be a good idea. Brian, I have pushed the throttle to the firewall here to try to get some airspeed, try to make up a little bit of the time here. I'm currently at about 116, I think. And I'm probably not going to go any faster unless I push.
Yep, sounds good.
Yeah, one of the major geographical features that you're going to observe, and I see that Franco was off at about my 10 o'clock. He is right over the Intracoastal Waterway, which is constructed by the Army Corps of Engineers. But these days you would see yachts making their way up and down the coastline using the Intracoastal Waterway for their fun, and also being utilized as well by commercial fishing in and out. I'm just curious, Franco. Have you ever vacationed here in the Carolinas? I know you're on the West Coast. And Franco's saying vacations in Florida, New York, and Boston. And Franco's saying he's driven through the area. Nice people, nice area. Yeah, Franco, most people here are nice. I'd like to say everyone, but you know that's really not true anywhere. I guess another fun fact about the lighthouse at Bald Head Island, Old Baldy, that was actually inactive for a long time, and then the light was relit in 1988 by the Preservation Society. As we were making our way up to the Cape Lookout, that particular lighthouse, the first lighthouse located there was built in 1804 and then completed and in use in 1812. And that initial structure was a 96-foot high brick tower with wooden shingles. It was really too short, so they did rebuild the lighthouse. So in 1857, Congress appropriated about $50,000 to build that new lighthouse. And the Fresnel lens there was lit on November the 1st, 1859, 163 feet. And for a time period, it did have a first order Fresnel lens, but that would be shining a great distance out into the Atlantic. During the U.S. Civil War, Confederate soldiers removed the Fresnel lens. They did not want that being used by Union soldiers. But Union troops eventually, captured Beaufort and Morehead City, and by the end of 1863, they had relit the lighthouse, but they were using it for blockade running, reconnaissance purposes, and also a navigational aid to the Navy ships that would have been operating in the area. And there was a village located at Cape Lookout. Oh, looks like my sim has frozen. Well, it's back now. So there was a village located in Cape Lookout. But it really proved to be, problematic to maintain a population on the island because of all of the Atlantic hurricanes and nor'easters that would come through. Too difficult to get people off of the island. So eventually the island became part of the National Seashore There is no permanent electricity on the island, which I think is interesting. People come across by ferry, and they're bringing everything under the sun because there are no stores. You bring everything with you when you go across and vacation on Cape Lookout. There are a few facilities that you can rent. ATVs are obviously a must for being able to move around on the island. And it's pretty hard to get a vacation home booked there. Yeah, Frank is saying in the chat that he can't wait for 2024 with the model matching. Yeah, Franco, that's on the top of my wanting to see list. Is dreaming of the day when a helicopter is not a tail dragging low wing aircraft, or someone flying around in a hawk that looks like an Airbus A320. Well, and from what we're seeing, too, there will be no shortage of aircraft to choose from, regardless of which version you pick. I think there are like 73 included in the standard edition. Well, I seem to be moving along now at about 136. And I do see Brian behind me. Yeah, Franco's saying it's going to be a great winter hobby and then Christmas presents. Yeah, amen to that. Yeah, last year Santa Claus brought me rotor pedals, which were greatly appreciated. Yeah, Franco's asking which kind of rotor pedals I've got. I've got the industrial strength Logitech pedals. Things are huge. I actually have them mounted on a pedal board that I had that I used to have about 25 guitar effects pedals on. But it works great. It's tilted, and I have it Velcroed down, and it doesn't move around on me. And I got to repurpose a bit of kit, so the wife always appreciates that. All right, so what else would I tell you about the North Carolina coast? A lot of commercial fishing activity here. And there are also a number of military bases that are active and in current use in this part of North Carolina for sure. And I believe that Brian has spent at least a little bit of time on a marine base down in this part of the woods. Yeah, Brian, I remember you telling me that you had done some vacationing in the Charleston area. Have you spent any time at the beach up in this part of North Carolina? Yeah, Paris Island's in South Carolina, Franco. It's a little bit further south and maybe a little bit hotter. Yeah, Camp Lejeune is here. And then Cherry Point Naval Air Station is also located probably about 20 nautical miles off of my left wingtip. Excuse me. But for a period of time after my son graduated from college, he worked for the U.S. Department of Defense at Cherry Point. And his official job description is, I do things. There are quite a few cities that are around this river mouth that we're coming up on. Morehead City and also Beaufort. And both of those places are havens for ocean fishing. A lot of charters go in and out of Morehead City and Beaufort. There is an annual seafood festival that is held here every year. I believe it's in October. I guess my advice is, if you're a tourist, keep moving because someone might try to boil, broil, or deep fry you. At any rate, there's lots of fun things to do here. And you see that the intercoastal waterway continues. Anyway, we're about 12 miles out. I'm going to have to start dropping down some altitude here. So I'll actually be able to see the Cape Lookout Lighthouse. I did do a sneak peek of this particular flight over the weekend and tried to highlight Cape Lookout. It's very, very well done. Microsoft did 2 of the lighthouses on the North Carolina coast. So Cape Lookout is one of them. And then they also did, I would argue, probably the most famous lighthouse in the U.S., Cape Hatteras. Those 2 lighthouses in particular are very well done. And then the Freeware that I included in the flight plan here for tonight, some of those are very, very well done too. So the next Flightsim.to lighthouse we'll get to will be the one at Ocracoke Island. And it's also one of the shortest. It's also the same height as the one at Bald Head Island, 75 feet. At any rate, I was having some fun over the weekend with doing some short takeoff flying, so giving a couple of stall aircraft a spin. So I flew over to the Cape Lookout and landed on the airstrip that's located there on the beach, which was quite fun. If you haven't done that kind of flying, I would encourage you to do so. There are some very interesting small airstrips located in this part of North Carolina. So one of the ones that I actually use this for the flight over the Cape Lookout was there's an airfield here called Dead Cow Field. You really can't make this stuff up. So that one was probably an unusual one. I'm sure there's a story of an airplane hitting a cow in the pasture. And then there's also another very quirky airfield here, and we'll fly by it. It's called Wolf Den. And describing that particular airfield as an airfield is being very kind, or being unfair to other airfields everywhere else. It's more like a driveway in a trailer park. It's just being real about it. Okay. Like I have gotten way ahead of everybody. Down here. Alright, we're now coming up on Cape Lookout. And Brian, are you over at Cherry Point?
Just about.
Yeah, Franco, how do you like the D18? I guess that's what you're flying? No. And my model matching has you showing up as like a Pitts biplane. Yeah, Franco, you haven't gotten to the lighthouse yet. It's waypoint 3. This is just a long stretch of not a whole lot going on here on the coast. It's beautiful. It's a great place to put up an umbrella and a couple of beach chairs out on the beach. As our Sunday friends like to remind us, it's flat. It's flat and has a lot of water. But I think that's one of the things that makes the sim cool too. Yeah, flying over a landscape like this, it really does make my blood pressure go down. It's just kind of very calming. And I think this might be a good fun spot. Brian, we get up here to the outer field that's over to the left of Cape Lookout, we could have some fun in the PBY. We could go submarine hunting. Oh, my sim is frozen here. I haven't had any freezes in months.
That would be a blast.
Well, you know, we got McCullough up here, right? That weird facility that looks like a big parking lot with 3 runways. You know, just kind of thinking out loud here and doing some brainstorming about some future flight stuff. You know, we could use the firefighting variant and, you know, drop some water on some pine trees. You go up the river toward Newbern. Yeah, Circle P Farm is quite an interesting one, Franco. I think we flew in and out of that one as a touch and go during one of our Sunday flights on Virtual Flight Online. And I did have a little bit of fun poking at Jonathan about, you know, having a short takeoff and landing activity at Wolf Den. And I really wasn't kidding. It's really like a driveway into a trailer park.
Where was that again?
Wolf Den.
Oh, okay.
It's the one that's just to the north of that Marine Corps landing field.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, Franco's talking about, you know, being a nice place to retire. Absolutely, and there are a lot of retirees that do live in this part of the coast, Newbern and Morehead City, and also Beaufort. Here we go, Franco. Here's your fun fact. I'm not sure if you're a soda pop drinker, but Pepsi Cola was formulated and first peddled in this area of North Carolina in Newbern in a little pharmacy. There is a gift shop store that is operating in that original location now, so get your Pepsi merch. Have a bag of popcorn and a cola and come home with a bag full of trinkets. And there are also some killer seafood restaurants that are here in the area. And it's fresh caught. Okay, we're almost to Cape Lookout. So lots of different kinds of seafood fishing activities take place here. Oysters, scallops, flounder. And then if you want to charter a boat and go out into the Gulf Stream, then certainly that's available to you as an option as well. Right off of my left wingtip is the airfield or the airport for Buford. Charter, general aviation kind of stuff. I'm not sure if they have any regularly scheduled commercial out of here or not, but I do know that there is commercial activity that takes place in and out of Newbern. That's a cool little airport. We've done some group flights in and out of that one as well. Okay, we're coming up on one of our main stars of the show. And I did talk about this one earlier, but I do see that you had a couple of folks kind of pop in and out of the stream, so I'll just briefly mention this one was the lighthouse here at Cape Lookout. Rebuilt and completed in 1859. Does have an operational Fresnel lens. And that is an amazing piece of engineering. Franco, I see you off my nose. Your best look at the lighthouse would be to go out to that spit and then turn north. So one of the other interesting fun facts about the Cape Lookout Lighthouse, and this one's a little bit different. Most of the decorations on lighthouses are really for identification purposes, right? So the disposition of stripes, helped mariners be able to identify one lighthouse from another. Cape Lookouts has a very unique paint scheme. It is black and white diamonds, and they are actually oriented north and south and east and west. So if you are looking at the Cape Lookout Lighthouse, if you see predominantly black diamonds, you are on a north-south course. Likewise, if you see white diamonds as the predominant presentation, you are on an east-west course. Hopefully that's westerly, because if you're traveling east, you might be in trouble. Depending on what you're in, obviously, right? If you're in a small boat, you could be on this side, traveling to the east. And I've also been to this island too. It is incredibly peaceful and quiet. So if you enjoy the smells and the sounds of the ocean, it really is a great place to come and visit. Not to mention the seashells that you will find out here. It's a great place to go shelling. Take your ATV out for the day and have some fun. But there is a closed airfield that's located here on Cape Lookout. There is a windsock that is rendered in the sim. Yeah, this one is one of my favorites. And if you get your drone camera out and wander around the island, Microsoft has placed some people traveling. There's a person walking their dog. There are a couple of people that are on top of the lighthouse. There are a few boats kind of scattered here and yon as well. But again, Microsoft did a heck of a job with the lighthouse. And they also rendered the keeper's house here too. It's very, very cool. All right, up the coast we will go. Our next lighthouse destination is 39 nautical miles, and this would be Ocracoke Light. So Ocracoke also has an interesting history and culture. It's a very small town, located on a very isolated barrier island. Again, the main way you're able to get to Ocracoke, principally, is, particularly from this direction in the state, is by ferry. You can also get to Ocracoke from Hatteras Island using the bridge and traveling south. But Ocracoke was the stomping ground for Blackbeard the pirate, who was killed here. His ship, the Queen Anne's Revenge, also sunk off the coast of Ocracoke. Yeah, the lighthouse at Ocracoke is kind of interesting as well. It was built in 1823. And it is whitewashed and coated with rice. So interesting. But that lighthouse is still in operation. The keeper's house is a bed and breakfast. Well, I guess if you want the full Ocracoke Island experience, you can spend a night or two in the keeper's house. Alright, so we are rolling along here, another 30 miles or so. And hopefully this gives you some perspective in terms of just how fragile and also how unique these barrier islands are. They are very, very narrow. It is most disconcerting to be out on these islands in bad weather, in a summer thunderstorm with a heavy downpour. I mean, it is not very wide at all in places. And these barrier islands are actually migrating inward toward the main coastline, right? Just because of wind and surf action, right, pushing the sand. So we have endeavored as human beings to slow the migration of the beaches in several places, but the beach wins. Inevitably, the beach will win. This is the section of beach that I was really referring to, that you could go out and find, you know, remnants of shipwrecks. There's actually a Union ironclad that you could see the smokestack of traveling to the north from Ocracoke. But those shipwreck maps were absolutely fascinating to me as a kid. Alright, so we've got about 23 miles to go before we get to Ocracoke. A couple of interesting airstrips that are located on this part of the Outer Banks. There's an airfield at Ocracoke, really for general aviation purposes. And then there is also Billy Mitchell Field that is also located on this island. And that particular airfield, Billy Mitchell, is operated by the state of North Carolina. So there are fuel pumps there, and a bathhouse, and a bathroom, and a couple of drink machines. But it does look like it would be a very, very cool place to fly in and out of. And the end of that runway is literally several hundred yards from the beach and from beach houses. So it'd be a very, very cool place to fly into and then stay. All right, we've got about another I've got another 19 nautical miles. And I mentioned this earlier, Brian and Franco, right off of my my left wingtip is Wolf Den. And Brian, Atlantic Field is to my, I guess, 7 o'clock. Yeah, Brian, I've got some scenery stuff that I have started doing with Atlantic. I started building a dive bomber base there. So that might be something worthy to explore later on when we have what I'm going to air quote as spare time. Oh, speaking of, yeah, we got to do this on the live stream. So I'm going to give a shout out to Devil Dog for the work that he is currently finishing up at his home airport in Muscle Shoals, Alabama. I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag with a surprise, but there is some really cool stuff coming down the pipe. So if you're looking for a good regional general aviation place to fly into and out of, you definitely need to download Muscle Shoals and then download the update when we publish that. So coming to Flightsim.to soon. And Franco, thank you for pointing me toward Red Wing. There are a few of those historic airfields I'm going to pick up on the East Coast. I think that would be fun. Oh, yes. Muscle Shoals, Alabama, the recording capital of the world. Home to some very cool people. Because, you know, Muscle Shoals, they have the swampers. Yeah, you're right, Brian, back in the day anyway. So there's only one of them left now? Well, that recording studio at Muscle Shoals sounds back in action, isn't it? Have they started recording there again? I know they're still recording at Fame. Yeah, David Hood. So is any of the original recording equipment still in use, Brian? I'm just curious. We are way off of lighthouse topic, but that's okay. We're talking about aircraft. We're talking about scenery now, so. Oh, okay. So Muscle Shoals Sound is only being used as a museum. Gotcha. Okay, you might want to slow yourself up because it's a small lighthouse. It's only 75 feet tall. So I'm just curious, Brian. I've never asked you this. How far apart were the studios? How far was Fame from the Jackson Highway facility? Oh, that's very cool. At any rate, check out Muscle Shoals add-in, available on Flightsim.to. And if you download it, shoot Devil Dog a note. It's very cool. A lot of great work done. Okay, so right off of my my nose here is the Ocracoke light. I guess if you want to time warp yourself, you could imagine Blackbeard's pirate ship over here. Kind of hanging out, nothing to see, moving along. Don't mind that treasure map. Alright, I'm going to swing around and I'm going to make an overflight pass here to I'm going to in air quotes at one of my favorite airfields, Ocracoke. What? Kind of reminds me of landing at a jungle strip in Papua New Guinea in a Corsair. Ooh, that sounds like fun too. Speaking of which, if you enjoy warbirds, we have built quite a bit of scenery in that genre that are available on Flightsim.to. And we are going to be using those airfields for group flights. We've done several. Although our last soiree was in the UK at RAF Debden. We're having a fly in the Ferry Swordfish, looking for targets of opportunity in the channel. Well, at any rate, those events take place roughly every other week on Wednesdays. Although I did schedule this particular flight, which is not related to warbirds or vintage aircraft at all, to really get going in terms of doing some streaming. So apologies to any of you who were on the stream earlier. We were having some loopback audio difficulty, which I'm still not sure what the root cause of that was. But anyway, we appreciate folks sticking around and joining in and sampling the, I guess, this travel log of the North Carolina coast. And then right off my left wingtip is North Carolina Highway 12, which runs from Ocracoke all the way to Duck and Corolla. So yes, there is a town in North Carolina called Duck, and for good reason, right? This was a very active duck hunting location. Yep, that's correct, Franco. The part of the stuccoing for the Ocracoke Lighthouse is rice. That's just kind of bizarre, isn't it? Who would think? But it would give it texture. And it was very white. That's correct. Yeah, it was, right? Yeah, there is definitely some contrast between the lighthouse at Ocracoke and then our last lighthouse stop at Currituck Beach. And the Currituck Beach Lighthouse actually is my favorite. I love Cape Hatteras. It's got some interesting stories to tell. But the Currituck Lighthouse is not painted. It's red brick. Red brick and black ironwork. And it still has its Fresnel lens. It is absolutely gorgeous. The pictures that you see of it do not do it justice. Anyway, I've got a few other little fun facts I'll share about that area in North Carolina when we get there. All right, so we're about 17 and a half nautical miles from Cape Hatteras. And how do you get from Hatteras Island, or from Ocracoke Island to Hatteras Island? That's right, a regularly scheduled ferry. If you can catch a break with the weather, September and October are marvelous times to hit the beach here. I get into such a habit. I do not typically fly with autopilot. I am very much a stick and rudder person. My hand needed a break. Let's see if I'm going to go back and take a look at some of my notes here. What I had intended to mention that I didn't get to. We're about 10 miles out now from Cape Hatteras. And since many folks are going to consider this one to be the star of the show. So the original lighthouse at Cape Hatteras was originally constructed in 1803, and it was made of sandstone. And it was 90 feet tall. And they were using whale oil lamps. But after a period of time, they discovered that, the lighthouse was just wasn't tall enough, right? So lots of ships made their way into Diamond Shoals and were shipwrecked. So in 1854, the lighthouse was extended to 150 feet and then fitted with a Fresnel lens. But they decided that that particular lighthouse was not tall enough, and they constructed a new lighthouse in 1870. And that actually is the current day structure. Interestingly enough, that particular lighthouse is undergoing some major renovation and maintenance. But one of the things I really wanted to mention is that that lighthouse was moved about a mile away from the Atlantic because it was in danger of falling into the sea. So just take note, there is a pathway that you can see from the current location of the lighthouse and its original location, and it was moved upright. It was an absolute marvelous feat of engineering, and the funding for that was actually publicly raised to be able to save that lighthouse. And it's absolutely gorgeous. It was moved 2,900 feet inland. So there are plenty of articles and videos out on the internet about the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse. And she is a beauty. And the beach here is absolutely gorgeous. Okay, so I did talk about sea turtles. They're really cool. And there are turtles here in this part of the Outer Banks as well. And I did talk about breast donuts. I'll talk about that. Leave autopilot on here for another minute or two. Alright, so I'm gonna teach you guys a local pronunciation. There is no Bodie Island Lighthouse. It is Body Island. If you want to fit in with the locals, make sure you say Body instead of Bodie. That particular lighthouse has some interesting history associated with it as well. Every time I see the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse, I think of a candy cane. And hopefully, the folks that are on the call, Franco and Brian, you can see the pathway that they took with the lighthouse, with the temporary road and pathway construction that they did around it. And they also moved the keeper's house. So if you're so inclined, this one's a good one to, I guess, pause your sim and get your drone camera out and take a peek. This one is very, very cool. Yeah, and I guess where they flattened the pathway for the lighthouse. So the lighthouse, if you see me on the live stream, I am actually going over the original location now. So that's how far they moved the lighthouse. It's a significant distance. Hats off to very smart engineering folks who figured out how to do that. Okay, off to waypoint 6. 33 and change nautical miles to the Body Island Lighthouse. So there have been 3 lighthouses at Body Island. The first of which was constructed in 1847. And it wasn't built so well. So by 1859 it was abandoned and then demolished. The second lighthouse was built in 1859 and survived until 1861, when the Confederate troops who were stationed out here on the Outer Banks destroyed the lighthouse to prevent it from being used by Union forces during the U.S. Civil War. Again, major traffic here up and down the Carolinas coast to Wilmington and to Charleston for blockade runners during the Civil War. So, yep, they tore it down. And then the last, after the Civil War was over, the new light and the current lighthouse that's in place was commissioned into service in 1872. And it was a little bit further north and inland from the originals. And it does have a original first order Fresnel lens. It's still in use. But in the in the mid 1930s, we were well underway in terms of automating the lighthouses, and by 1953, a particular lighthouse was transferred across to the National Park Center. There is also a fascinating article, if you if you Google Our State magazine, there's a fascinating article about the life-saving station that is near the Body Island Lighthouse. There are some harrowing tales and quite a lot of bravery displayed by the folks that were stationed at that rescue station here on the coast. Again, this was the graveyard of the Atlantic. So the Body Island Lighthouse has also undergone some significant renovations. And in 2019, tourists were able to climb to the top of it again. Well, there you go. And myself a little bit of extra fuel for later. Okay, so we're making our way north to Body Island Light. So as we get closer to the Body Island Lighthouse, I will point out a multi-billion-dollar project. There is a bridge that goes from Body to Hatteras Island, and that bridge was periodically knocked out with storm activity that continues to take place in this part of the coastline. They endeavored to build a more hardy version of the bridge, so it's quite impressive, both in person and also in the sim. I guess for those of you on the stream, do you feel like you're on a travel log now? So if you need directions of how to get from anywhere on the Outer Banks, you just get on Highway 12. But that continues to be underneath and off my nose. And this particular section of beach is quite stunning. Spent quite a bit of time in this section with my grandparents. Hunting seashells and then exploring the shipwreck map. Easy for me to say. What you don't get a perspective of, I don't think, from the sim is just how narrow the islands are. And you've got maritime forest and swamp to your left, and then the Atlantic to your right. If you're looking for a place that's not, I'll air quote this, people-y, and you need to get away from it all, this is a good part of the coast to do just that. Although it's much more developed now than it was, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. I could keep going, but then I'd be showing my age. A little bit further up the coast, as we get to a little junction called Whalebone, you'll also see some wind turbines that have been built just off the coast. There are a few of them here that are visible. I guess the other thing that I would point out about Highway 12 is that literally every single time we have a tropical depression, tropical storm, hurricane move through this area, inevitably parts of Highway 12 are washed out and have to be rebuilt / repaved. Yeah, maybe this portion that we're passing over right now gives you some perspective of just how narrow it is. Look how close Highway 12 is to both the Sound and also the ocean. That's absolutely incredible. Alright, another 10 nautical miles to go. And then we're really on our home stretch. This next part of the flight will be relatively short. Yeah, I'm curious to those of you who are on the stream, any feedback from me in terms of length of this flight? Too long? About right? Be curious to hear what you guys have to say. And some of this construction is not accurately rendered here in the sim either. But again, nitpicking, I guess. Oh, Franco, that makes me chuckle. You went to the movies, but hit the concession stand. Yeah. Having a proper cup of tea. Well, I know that Brian was schmackling earlier. Yeah, the Franco, the bridge that I mentioned earlier is this monstrosity here that's in front of me, but behind you. And I can tell you from personal experience, the original bridge was over to the right of where this one was constructed. They decided that building the bridge directly across the inlet probably not the best course of action, so they moved it out a bit, and they did make it significantly higher. And there was a lot of concrete, I guess, poured here, along with some additional printing of money, right? If I remember correctly, part of the footprint of the original bridge did go across this little strip of land that now looks like a slice of watermelon. Yeah, like I said, Brian, they dropped billions with a B on building that sucker. Of course, they were spending millions and millions every time they had to go back here to the inlet and rebuild, because it would literally sever the connection to Ocracoke. Here we go with some additional fishing locations. Again, this was a place on the Outer Banks to come and get fresh seafood. Here we go. Right off of my nose is the Body Island Lighthouse, version 3.0. Horizontal stripes for everyone. Yeah, Cape Hatteras and Body Island and then Currituck are all in the same architectural style and of similar height. Although the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse is the tallest of the bunch. I want to say it's roughly the equivalent of like a 12-story building. It's quite impressive. Okay, here we go. We're on our way to first flight and the Wright Brothers Memorial. And I'm tempted to go back and edit the description or the title of this particular video. Call it the Energizer Bunny live stream. It just keeps going and going. But seriously, I hope folks who have joined have enjoyed the flight plan, and then some of the what I'll call local color around the who, what, when, where, and why. So I guess the other thing that I would mention to the group as we continue to progress north, to our left, a little further north, is actually the location of the first British colony that was established in the eastern U.S. The Lost Colony was established on Roanoke Island, over here off my left wingtip. This area is known as Whalebone. So there's a major traffic junction here. Bridge coming over from the mainland from Manio across. So this area is also referred to as Nag's Head, in reference to a mule that was used to walk up and down the coastline with a lantern around its neck. Fun fact. Oh, I almost forgot about this. I can mention it now. So as we get up to the Currituck Lighthouse, one of the things that I would just point out to you as a point of fascination is that there are actually wild horses that live on this island, and they are descendant horses from Spanish galley shipwrecks. They are wild and they live in and around the coast, and it is not uncommon to see them on the beach, particularly as you move your way north. So that would be in the Duck and Corolla area. So the big blob of sand that we are going over right now is Kill Devil Hill. It is one of the largest sand dunes in the world. It is quite tall. And actually, as a teenager, I took some hang gliding lessons off the top of Kill Devil Hill. Well, it's a great place to try your hand at hang gliding and also kite flying. So there you go. All right, we are coming up on first flight. So this is the Wright Brothers Memorial. And if you haven't been here in the sim, it is quite cool. The memorial itself is very, very well rendered. So is the museum. It is located to its northeast. And then there is also an airfield here. So Microsoft and Asobo did go to some links here to model some of this stuff at the Wright Memorial, and rightfully so, right? I mean, this is a flight simulator. So the memorial itself is very, very well done. There are also stone markers that mark the original flight locations, and then their associative links. So the first 3 flights are marked with stone markers. The Wright Brothers original work shed is still here and standing. And then there are a number of cool things that are out on display in the museum. I'm going to fly over the museum and then also the flight markers. So the memorial is very impressive. It sits on a very large hill. And here you go. There are the markers that I was talking about. There's Flight 1, Flight 2, Flight 3, and Flight 4. So welcome to the home of controlled power flight. Also a good spot to break out the drone camera. Well, Franco, that might be a good place for you to do some historic flying out of first flight. It's really fun. Yeah, Franco, I've actually been to the museum a couple of times, several times as a child, and then or a teen. That qualifies as being a child, I guess. Probably more so than being 5. And then also as an adult a couple of times too. I believe, if memory serves me correctly, in addition to the Wright Brothers Memorial, there is also an aviation museum here in Kill Devil Hill that I have not been to. I'll have to ask my daughter about it. She was here a couple of weeks ago with her hubby. Okay, 18.72 nautical miles to my favorite. Excuse me. Hey Brian, are you still out there on voice? I have a Shrek quote on the tip of my tongue. But this particular part of the Outer Banks is significantly developed. I mean, they have packed everything but the kitchen sink in here now. There are lots of places to stay and sleep, and there are a few golf courses that are out here. Again, some great seafood restaurants. there are a couple of outstanding places. So if you ever are going to travel, reach out to me and I'll give you some recommends. Okay, before we get there, so you can just enjoy the lighthouse. Currituck Beach. So, not too far to the north of the lighthouse is where the road stops between North Carolina and Virginia. You can go four-wheeling, though. A heck of a place to go four-wheeling. At any rate, the lighthouse was completed in December of 1875. And again, its construction and architectural style similar to Cape Lookout, Body, and Cape Hatteras. Its unique feature is that it is unpainted brick. It is 162 feet tall. And it also has a working first order Fresnel lens. So it is blasting light a good 18 to 20 miles. And as I mentioned with the previous lighthouses, the Bureau of Lighthouses and the Coast Guard merged, and automation took place. I guess thus ending the very small footprinted career path for a lighthouse keeper. So this particular lighthouse that's coming up was actually really in danger of not being in good shape and then having to be, knocked down. But there was some effort in 1980 by some folks from the Outer Banks to begin some restorative kinds of efforts for the lighthouse. And then in 1991 it was opened again to the public. But it is my favorite, for sure. Okay, it's right off my nose. And we just have a short hop over to our destination airfield once we are finished taking a look at the Currituck Lighthouse. And as I mentioned, you can see sort of the line of demarcation in terms of development for this upper part of the Outer Banks. So next stop in terms of civilization would be Virginia Beach, Virginia. Oh, there she is. More airspeed to swing around and have another look. Anyway, I think the Freeware lighthouses are fairly well done, right? Applying the textures and then building the tops of the lighthouses would have been a labor of love for sure. So Brian, if you're looking for a challenge, ironwork, man, that's where it's at. And I believe the keeper's house here at Currituck is also a bed and breakfast. Okie dokie. Back to our last part of aviating here. Well, I don't have live weather turned on. So I am going to go in runway 23. Regardless of which we pick, we're going to have a slight crosswind, at least for my calm wind settings here. And we'll make our way over. And this community, Corolla, is a very word I'm looking for. It's a very exclusive vacation community. It's beautiful. Very large beach houses available for rent. So if you got a large family and you want to divide up the cost of going to the coast for a week or two, this might be a great spot. Well, there's no mic about it. It is a great spot. It's beautiful. In the back of my head, I hear my flight instructor calling me Speed Racer again. And to use my grandfather's phraseology, I think I need to get woed up here. Get our engine RPM back up. And we'll just work our throttle and lose some altitude. Almost got our speed down to flat deployment range here. Oh yeah, Franco. My grandfather was full of colorful phrases. Load up. And he was quite a colorful character. In World War II and Korean vet. Which I think is one of the reasons why I do find myself pulled to spend some time in the Pacific. All right. I don't think I'm gonna. I will not cheat and side slip because that's not safe. Safety first. Yeah, this runway picture's not looking too bad. Good. Probably going to carry some speed midway to the runway to give you guys room to land. I'm going to put it down just past the landing zone here. There we go. Following my grandfather's instructions and getting woed up. And we'll cut across the grass. There's nobody watching. There will be no number to call. I'm thinking if I'm looking for something to eat, I'm going over here. All right. Like Franco is down. Devil dog on final. If you weren't able to enjoy us live or enjoy this live, hopefully you will enjoy the live stream replay. We want to take a moment to apologize for the technical issue we had earlier. Still not sure in terms of what caused that because I did not have a browser window open with the live stream open. So it's a bit of a puzzle. But at any rate, that's what makes technology fun, right? Trying to figure out what happened after the fact. Do a little bit of after action reporting here to try to figure some of that out. Look at that beautiful biplane here. All right, folks. I really appreciate everybody who hung in there. Thank y'all again. For those of you who are watching the replay, please like and subscribe. Love to have you on another flight. We'll be doing this again soon. More than likely, we'll be going someplace in a Warbird or a DC3 or something.